So you can see us live on YouTube now, or I guess not live. I guess you can see us pre-recorded on YouTube now, and you should be able to see us on Facebook Live now. So welcome to another episode of the Blessing and Cursing podcast. We are here in the new studio setup. Of course, it's not new. Well, I guess it is definitely new to you, but it's new to everybody this go around. We've changed some things. We've got some better noise canceling. Via a very special discount from a very special store, which we are not paid for, so we will not advertise. Before we get too involved in things, I wanted to tell you guys about our 100th episode that is coming up. This is episode 98, so on December the 19th, we will be celebrating our 100th episode of the Blessing and Cursing podcast. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually move location one more time to the building just across the way here into the sanctuary, and we're going to have as many people as we can get to just have a celebration and remembrance for what God has done in these last few hundred episodes with us. So we would appreciate your viewing with that. We'll get you more details on who we can confirm are going to be here and pray for those people that we can hope are going to be here. And what we want to do is either for that episode or for an episode shortly after, we want to answer your questions. So if you can email us at blessingandcursing3019, message us on Facebook, you can comment below this video. There's 1,000 ways to reach us. But we want to answer your questions. So if there's a question that maybe you haven't gotten a good answer to, or maybe you haven't been at liberty to ask us and we'll talk about it. And we can leave it anonymous so you don't have to worry about it, or we can bring you into the fold and give you credit for that. But we would really love to hear from you on that. So today, as we have this new setup here, we've got Philip joining us back again because this is somebody you've brought in, and we want people to feel comfortable. So if I know you a little bit more, I'm going to be the one talking to you mostly. If he knows you, we're going to have him in here. So we have DeWayne and Stephanie. So how are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. So I guess everybody calls you Solomon. I don't know anybody that actually calls you DeWayne, do they?
Phil and I worked together for a long time, and in our industry, everybody goes by the last name. I've been called a lot of names, and I go by Saul, Solomon, DeWayne. Yeah. My mom called me Michael. If I hear Michael DeWayne, I'm going to probably run. I'm in trouble. And this is my beautiful new wife, Stephanie. The best thing that's happened to me.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm just going to call you Solomon if that's cool.
Call me whatever you want.
Just call me when it's time to eat.
Yeah. with Philip, I'm sure you know, he tells a lot of stories, talks about a lot of people. He knows a lot of people. And so before I knew you, it was just months and months and months of Solomon this, Solomon that. And I was like, man, Solomon sounds like a pretty wise kind of guy. And then, of course,
not nearly as wise as the one before.
Like a wise guy.
Yeah, a wise guy.
I'll take that.
Yeah. And so then you're here with us now, and this is very exciting for us. I always love whenever I like to meet new people, but I really like to be able to get people that there's a past with, because there's more of that familial kind of connection, everything. So tell us about yourself. How did you wind up in the chair today?
Well, I'm like I said, I've known Phil a long time, and we worked together out at Oak Ridge Plants, and I've seen Phil go through some amazing transformations, and he's really been a positive impact on my life. I don't know if he knows that or not, but I've got a little bit of testimony I want to share with people. 2015, I suffered the widowmaker heart attack. I was married at the time, and I lived in West Knoxville, and I lived about 5 to 7 minutes from Park West Hospital. That day, June 22nd, about 4:30 in the afternoon, not that I remember the date or time. I don't know, were we on the same shift together, Phil, or not? Were you on my shift then?
No, I was on days.
Okay. You'd already transferred to days, and I was on day shift, and as a supervisor, we always had this joke that we kept supervisor pills back in the supervisor's office, and when you get heartburn, you go take a supervisor pill. So about 4:30 that afternoon, I thought, man, I've got heartburn, and I'd taken some leftover fajitas that I'd cooked the night before, and I had fajitas for lunch. I thought, man, they're killing me. And so I go take a supervisor pill, and a few minutes later, everything's okay, and I go back to doing what I'm doing, and about 2 hours later, it comes back. And so I go take another one, and Rolaids have been good to me over the years, so it worked again. And so that's not an endorsement. I'm not sponsored by Rolaids.
But we are big fans here at the show. Yeah.
So with that being said, I leave that location about 5:30. Takes 45 minutes to get home, and I get home and decided not to eat anything because it's starting to come back. Sat down on the couch and decided I was not going to eat. And I'm going to get up and go take a shower. So I get up to go get in the shower, and heart conditions run in my family on both sides, my mom and dad. It's just something I'm plagued with. So doctors tell you just got to play the hand that's dealt you, and it's kind of like life. You got to, so you just move forward. So anyway, long story short, I get in the shower, and I normally take. I was on blood pressure medicine at the time, and I always take a chewable aspirin every day as preventative. So I'm in the shower, and this pain just keeps coming back, and it wasn't your typical symptoms. However, it took me to my knees in the shower. And I don't know, as men or just people, we'll be in denial. Men tend to do that. I'm not that way. So I'm in the shower. I was like, if I didn't know any better, had seen my father at the same age I was at the time, had a massive heart attack and 6 bypasses, and knew all that, and he survived it. This is what you say to yourself, because I'm in denial. I said, if I didn't know any better, I think I'm having a heart event. I couldn't say the word heart attack.
Yeah.
I'm 44 years old, hunting and fishing, doing anything I want to do. If I want to go to the top of the mountain, I went.
Sure.
Running 2 to 3, 4 times a week, doing pretty good, I thought. And it hits me, takes me to my knees, and I crawl out of the shower, and I look up on the counter, and I see the chewable aspirin. So I dump some of those in my hand and just chew them up and make a slurry and put it under my tongue. And I'm trying to get the words out, hey, I need help, and I make it to the bed and try to get some clothes on. And I thought, man, I didn't get dried off. Well, I dried off. I was just sweating so profusely that my body was fighting. I was just struggling. So finally get the attention and get her to get me to the. So we got to go. So I start going towards the garage, and I go down this hallway, and I notice that all of a sudden my vision starts closing up, and I get to a pinhole, and I can see myself reaching for the doorknob, and I'm like, this is it. And I see the car. I get out in the garage, I see the car, and I collapse. And she's trying to get me back. I don't know what's going on, and obviously I'm out, and I was kind of underneath the vehicle a little bit. As a 2-door Honda, and 4-door Honda, excuse me, and my feet were kind of under the rocker panel, and I was laying there, and the door was open, and she said I set up like Frankenstein's monster, just set up and pushed her out of the way and grabbed a hold of the door and started pulling myself in. She grabs me by the pants, kind of throws me in, and like I said, 5 to 7 minute trip out this subdivision down Fox Road to Kingston Pike. I'm collapsed over on the window. I pass out about halfway down the side road to get to the main 4-lane to get on the highway. I wake up, and I'm laying against the window, and I wake up, and the pain is just unreal. And I said, God, you got to help me with this pain. I can't take it. It's like you turn the water faucet off on the pain. It's just gone. Excuse me. And I said up, and I said, what are you doing? She goes, oh my God, you're awake. I said, yeah. I said, you're going too fast. You need to slow down. You need to have your hazards on. I'm going through my operational, because that's what we do as operations. Sure. You're going too fast. You need to slow down. Turn on the hazards. Crack the window. I'm hot. Adjust the air conditioner. Put your seatbelt on. You need to call Park West Hospital and tell them your 44-year-old white male is having a heart attack and you're 5 minutes out. Well, what's the phone number? I said, Google it. And I collapse. I go back out. Next recollection I have is in the hospital parking lot. I come back to, and she Googles it, by the way, on the way to the hospital. And if Phil, if you pick your phone up and you Google Park West Hospital, what number would come up on your search engine?
Probably the main office.
Right, like a switchboard.
Yeah.
Well, because we went back and looked at the search history, and she searched for Park West Hospital, and she hits send like you normally do. The number pops up and hits send, and it's about this time. It's about 7:30, something like that. And what I was told is the guy on the other end of the line picked up the phone and said, "Heart cath."
Huh.
The phone rang straight to the heart cath lab, which they were leaving for the afternoon. They were done with their shift doing interventions and things like that. I guess they were going to keep ER staff on, but they said, so they get the information, and so they meet me at the door and they hit me in the butt with a wheelchair and roll me in. They don't know my name from Adam at this point, and in the emergency room, they lost me again. I'd actually had expired in the garage from what they tell me, based on blood gases and all that stuff. So they lost me again, shot me, got me back, took me to heart cath, and I remember being moved over to the table and looking over, and the sheets fell off and just water pouring out. And I said, "What is that?" And come to find out, that was sweat. My body's just fighting so much. And long story short, I'm talking just like right now. When you talk, you think it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I'm talking to them at this point in time, it's making sense to me because I can understand it. But evidently, I'm oxygen deprived, and it's gargled.
Yeah.
So the anesthesiologist is on this side, and I'm on this table, and she's hit me on this shoulder, and I look over, and she says, "How much do you weigh?" And I tell her, and she goes, "I can't understand you." We're going to play the high-low game. So at this time, I was a little higher than I am. I'm a little lower. So long story short, about that time, a guy hits me on this side, and it's the surgeon, the attending surgeon. He says, "Son," he said, "I can't wait." He said, "I've got to go." He said, "Look at her." And he moved down this way, and I looked down, and he was cutting the artery to go in with the heart cath sheath. And I looked over at her, and she said, "Here it comes." And I could feel it here, and I could feel the sheath coming up this way. So they kind of met, and I go out.
He was saying, "This is fixed to hurt."
Yeah, he said, "I've got to go. This is fixing to hurt." And I didn't feel a thing. The pain was just so great that I didn't feel anything. I don't know if there was a local anesthesia down there or what have you, but so that went on. So I don't know how long I was in there, but while they were in there, they started working on me, and I had the Widowmaker, which is there's about a 5 to 7% chance of surviving. That's the LAD. It was 100% blocked. The secondary across the back of my heart was 60% blocked, and I had 280s in the bottom right. The bottom right is what exhausts the blood to the rest of your body. So I was obviously in pretty distress. So something happened, and my blood pressure, for whatever reason, I think it was blood pressure, I'm not sure, ruptured a dime-sized hole in my heart wall. While they're in there doing heart cath, working roto-rooter, we'll say, and putting a stent in, kind of figuring out what's going on and keeping me alive. So they go through my rib cage and sew my heart wall up. And during this, I expire again. So that's 3 times in one afternoon. And so with that being said, they said I was too weak to proceed, but they needed to do more work. So they came out. And at this time, it's probably 11:30 at night. I end up in a room, and so all this is going on, and everything's just a blur. And if you'll remember, I woke up in the car on the way to the hospital, and was pretty lucid. I mean, I was pretty with it. And so I wake up, and they said they told the people in the room at the time. They said, "Hey, you're going to have to watch this incision here. If he has a hematoma under the skin, or it bleeds, he'll bleed out in no time." And they raised the blanket up and said, "Oh my gosh, it was already hematoma." So they hit me with some drugs and put me back out. So I'm in and out, and all this other stuff. I'm not figuring out what's going on, and you don't really know what's happening to you at that time anyway. So with that being said, again I wake up after this guy that could play football for UT comes in and puts pressure on it, and I go out, and they save me again, and I wake up about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I told the people in the room, I said, "Look, you're going to have to get me off of these drugs." I said, "I'm hallucinating." So what do you mean? They said, "Well," I said, "Well, I told you, I saw my mother's face, and I spoke to her. Well, at that time, my mom had been gone about 12 years. And I saw her face, and she spoke to me. and there was a glow behind her face, a white light like I'd never seen before in my life. It was so peaceful. And she looked at me and she said, "I love you, but not yet." And it was gone. So, moving forward, they take me back 2 days later and put more stents in. So now here I am, multiple stents, and died 3 times, and they give me a 3% survival chance when they kick me out of the heart cath room the second time. So to take me down to put the second stents in 2 days later, the first day was on a Wednesday, this was on a Friday. This lady comes in, and she's the same anesthesiologist. I'm in the same heart cath lab I was in before, but it was a little different getting in there. The first time they beat all the paint off the door facings getting me in there. The second time it was a little controlled, you know, we ease in there and kind of, "Hey, how you doing?" And this lady comes over and she says, "Hey," she said, "You remember me?" And I'm looking up and I said, "Come around here so I can see you." So she comes around, talks to me, and she says, she goes, "I'm your anesthesiologist." I said, "Yeah." She said, "I've been here, I'm one of the newest people on staff, and I've been doing this line of work for 15, 16 years. And she said, "By all rights, you're not supposed to be here." She said, "You are a miracle." And she said, "There's some people that want to talk to you." She goes over and dials the phone, and people come in from, I guess, other parts of the hospital that had worked on me. And in this time for them to get there, she said, "You know about HIPAA laws, don't you?" And I said, "Yes." She goes, "Let's throw that book out, and me and you're going to have a conversation." She goes, "I want to talk about another book." And we started talking about scripture, and she said, that's when she told me, "You know, you're not supposed to be here, and you're just a blessing." She said, "God's got work for you to do." So I didn't understand the significance of that at the time. So all that happens, and I get the extra stance, and they kick me out, and they said, "You're going to do this thing called rehab." Well, I go to cardiac rehab and do very well through it, and I said, through that, I said, "This is going to affect my life, but it's not going to define my life." And it has. It's affected my life. It's kept me from doing things I really like to do, like I want to do them, because anybody knows anything about me, I'm wide open 110% of the time. And so, long story short, 5 months and 2 days to the day after rehab, I run a 5K race in downtown Knoxville. The weekend after that, I do 17.8 miles to Mount LeConte with some family members in one day, up and back. So I'm back. Here we go. You know, everything's fine. So roll forward to, that was in 15. You roll forward to 18, and I go back. When I leave in 15 after rehab, they do an evaluation on you, tell you how your heart's functioning, and after all my heart damage and everything, my heart ejection fraction was at 55%. If you don't know anything about that, 55% is the low range of normal. 55 to 65 is what a normal person has, and a 70 to 75 would be like a college athlete. So I'm at 55. I can do about anything I want to do, and that's in 18. So roll forward. I'm taking care of things at the house. Life's normal. I'm taking care of 3 to 4 veterans, mowing their yards in my neighborhood at the time, just trying to pay back for what they paid me. And then through them moving and passing away, I'm down to one who, near and dear to my heart, I end up being his financial power of attorney, helped him bury his wife, and he's by himself, no children, named Eugene. Everybody kind of got to know Eugene through me, because I'd always tell Eugene stories. And he was a card. And so long story short, I enter into a divorce, and life I thought was horrible at the time. And within 18 months, I went through another hard patch. From that time, from 18 to 2 years, I started the divorce proceedings, picked all my stuff up and started moving it over to his basement. She's out of the picture that time, moves out of the community, and so I'm left to sell a house, take care of a house. Eugene's in a nursing home, so I'll blow up an air mattress and live in his living room and pay him rent, because he can help. It can help him. It helps me. Move my stuff over, live in there, file for a divorce, put a house up for sale, end up selling my house very quickly because the market was just crazy, and it still is. So my house very quickly, now I'm homeless, living in this guy's living room on an air mattress. And you know, what am I going to do? You know, why is all this happening to me? And didn't understand was faith was wavering at this time, as being tried. And
And your dad was very ill.
my dad was very, very ill. He 9.5 years of dialysis, 6 bypasses, 2 heart attacks, congestive heart failure, B3 cancers. Other than that, he was a pretty healthy guy. But toughest guy you'll ever want to meet. Did not know the word quit. And Dad was very sick. And so Dad takes a turn for worse. Dialysis is not working. We got to send you home for end of life. So I was still working with Phil then, and so with that being said, spent time with Dad, and he passed. Dad passed, and we're sitting there, my brother and family and everything's there, and he said, looks around, he goes, look at all these trucks in the driveway. And I hadn't moved to my new home because I'd bought a home since then, and I hadn't moved there because we were working on everything, and I was still living on an air mattress because that was close proximity to my father's house. And so now we look around and our glue's gone, you know. So my brother says, look at all these trucks, let's move you. So the day they took my father from his residence to prepare him for his burial, we moved DeWayne and moved from West Knoxville to Kingston. And I was blessed with a home down there, and good Lord let me to buy it. And so we moved everything, and all of a sudden everybody that helped me move is gone. So all this stuff has transpired, and there I am alone. It's just me and a dog, you know, and a good Lord. So the dog helped me a lot, but I know who got me through it.
Sure.
So I'm really struggling, and
The worst time of the year.
it was right at Christmas. And I've never been a person that felt like I needed anything from anybody because I was always self-sufficient on this earth. I never asked for help. I'm always one to want to help, but I can't ask. And
You describe it yourself well.
Huh?
You describe it yourself well.
Well, I've had a lot of help to make me understand who I am.
Yeah.
And this will help you to understand who you are. So I'm struggling, and I'm there by myself and trying to make. I bought a project home on purpose. I felt, and honestly felt like I needed to punish myself because I was broken. There was something wrong with me.
Sure.
All this was happening to me. So, long story short, Dad told me on his deathbed, he said, son, because my mom and dad divorced when I was 13. My dad been gone almost 2 years, so, and I'm 51, so that's a pretty good stretch. He never remarried. He dated a little bit, but he never remarried, and loved my mother to the day he died. They just couldn't work it out. So anyway, long story short, he told me on his deathbed, he said, son, I know you're going through a tough patch right now because my divorce wasn't final. We had filed, and I was living on an air mattress. And he said, son, don't die a lonely old man like I did. He said, don't choose that path because there's somebody out there for you. And I agreed, and I told him I would. And you don't lie to your parents. So give me a minute. This is the tough part. I was really struggling, and I had a good friend that helped me buy. She's a realtor named Linda. She said, hey, Chris Blue, a guy that was from The Voice, I think it was The Voice or one of those shows, was playing in Harriman and at the Princess Theater. And she said, won't you go? You know, I didn't really want to go because I was by myself and oddball, you know, going down there by myself around Christmas. But I went. And he was singing. This is pretty neat. He was singing, and he comes from a very strong religious background. If you ever get an opportunity to hear him, you need to hear him perform. And he just stopped in the middle between songs and was talking. He said, look, there's somebody out here who needs this. He said, I'm taking you to church. and he changed his playlist and started singing gospel music in the middle of it. And I went and met him after that and told him it was me that needed it because I'd been considering suicide. So I leave there and go home again. I'm by myself, and I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying. God, I'm not strong enough to do this. I need your help. And I don't want to be alone. That was one of the things that kept ringing in my mind from my father. I don't want to be alone. Send me who I'm supposed to be with. Whoever that is, I don't care. Just send her to me. So the next morning I pray and I pray and I pray. And this time I'm angry. I'm going through this emotional roller coaster as part of grief.
Sure.
And I just have some outbursts in the living room. And I'm cursing God. And I fall to my knees and I pray for him to help me and to sit there to me. And through that, up and down, up and down. At some point, I ended up with a gun in my mouth. And I've shot professionally in my life. I know guns inside and out. I'm no gun nut, but I'm a believer and I'm very proficient with them. And I had a 1911 in my hand, and I had the gun in my mouth, and I was trying to pull the trigger. I've always been a very strong person physically. Evidently, I'm weak spiritually at this point. And I worked on that gun, and it had a 3-pound trigger on it. And if you've ever shot a gun, a 3-pound trigger is not much. I mean, you can touch it with your pinky, and it goes off. I physically could not pull the trigger. I mean, I tried with everything I could to pull that trigger, and I couldn't. I got mad and threw the gun. And I cursed again. I was like, don't do me this way. You got to send me something. Well, that was still before Christmas. I think it was, or maybe a little after, and right around Christmas. And I keep praying this, that please send her to me, please send her to me, help me with this. I can't do this alone. I'm not strong enough. And why have you spared me again? Why did you take me through the hard stuff to make me go through this? And why are you putting me through this? And why am I alone? And so I am not one to, anybody knows me, everybody's going to laugh at me to see this, but I was laying in bed one night and been praying about it. And there's a guy that I'd met, 2 guys that I'd met through the heart attack, named Jeremy and Dennis. Dennis, I met this guy. We were motorcycle friends. We'll get to that in a minute. We met on a website, a Facebook page for a common motorcycle that we had. And Jeremy was going through some things in his life with his wife that he's still with at the time. And we talked to each other through our trials and tribulations here on earth. And so I've been speaking with him a lot, and he had been helping me with scripture. And at that time, he had turned around and come to Christ. He had turned his back also. Anyway, I'm sitting there, and this is the way I met Stephanie. I was talking to Jeremy. He says, "Hey," he said, "she's out there for you. Keep having faith." And so I keep hearing this, "Keep having faith. She's out there." And I got this new charger, and I laid my phone on it, and I'm laying there at night watching the ceiling fan go around. Couldn't sleep, thinking, "Man, I got to be at work in 4 hours." And so my phone kept lighting up. And it was his website for dating. I said, "I'm not doing that. That's not me. That's where people like you, people laugh at. That's not DeWayne, okay?
Yeah.
That's
not
for weirdos.
That's for freaks and weirdos."
That's what comes on after midnight commercials.
That's right. But this phone kept lighting up, and guess what it said? She's waiting for this website. I'm not going to mention the name of it, but what were you doing at that time? About that same time?
I'm praying that the Lord would send me somebody good.
So I signed up, and we met. And that's a whirlwind story. We'll get to that, but I'm gonna go back and talk about Jeremy and Dennis a little bit, because this is part of the testimony. Then I want to get to the most important when when I had my heart attack, I went on this tear. You'll remember this, Phil. I told everybody at work, something was playing on my heart, said, you need to tell people, because everybody's like, man, you're 44, you're in shape, you're not really overweight, you can go do anything you want to do.
Picture of health.
And my message was, hey, you need to listen to your body. And it can happen to anybody. There was multiple people that through God playing on my heart for me to reach out to and talking about till people got tired of hearing about it, okay, went and got checked, including one of my family members, my brother. I made him go. And he had he passed a stress test, and I had to force him to go. I had to threaten to physically take him over. Because that's not a family trait. That's not one of our family traits. Stubborn is not a family trait. So anyway, long story short, he passes the treadmill, and the doctor says, with your history, I think you need to have a heart cath. Well, he has a heart attack on the heart cath table, and it would have been a bad one.
Yeah.
And there's 3 or 4 other people that had interventions based on what they found. And that's not me. That's not me doing that. That's God working through me. Okay, and how he's used my story and the things that I went through, my testimony, to reach out and touch people, because those people have work to do too, or they wouldn't be spared, in my opinion.
Yes.
So so we start this. I'm looking for something to do before we meet. I'm looking for something to do, and so I've always ridden motorcycles and been around these old mountains all my life, and I know all the Pig Pass and the trails and stuff. And so we go out there and we start this, meet this guy named Dennis, and he's kind of he's wanting to do a motorcycle ministry. And I said, look, I'm on board. I don't know how I can help you. He's in North Carolina and I'm in Tennessee. How can we do this? Through the power of Facebook, we just put out there that we're going to be doing a guided ride. Anybody wants to join, we're going to meet up on these days and laid out tours that we're going to ride. And we rode about 4 days and covered about 2,000 miles. And this guy comes up from Florida named Jeremy, brings his family up, and he stays in Robbinsville, North Carolina, and leaves his family there. And typical biker guy, tattoos up, and beard, and bald head, and everybody's wearing their biker gear, and living the weekend warrior stuff, and so we start riding, and Dennis says we ride. We're about the second day in, I think, and we go across the Trailhole Skyway. Absolutely beautiful place. It's God's country. Get up there, and there's a place called Indian Boundary Lake, and Indian Boundary is a beautiful place. It's near and dear to my heart, and definitely to Jeremy's now, because what I didn't know, everybody's got something going on in the background. Yes. And we don't know what people are faced with or what they're dealing with on a daily basis. I just know that the way you interact with them can affect that. Okay. So we pulled over simply because it's a beautiful place, and motorcycle guys got to pee. Yeah. Okay, especially when you get older. So we had some older guys with us. I said, hey, we're on communication. I said, Dennis, he's up front and I'm in the back. I said, won't we pull over at Indian Boundary? Be a good place to stop and take a break and use the restroom and get us something to drink. And so we had a little bit of we always bless the bikes and have prayer, and we're on top of the mountain, and we always talk about try to work a testimony in or something like that, and we had some good discussions. Some people were interested, some weren't.
Sure, always.
So during that time, Dennis come out of the restroom, looks at me, and he said, "You going to the restroom?" I said, "No, I'm good." He said, "It come on my heart for you to tell your testimony." So I said, "Okay." So I started kind of down my testimony like I have here, and not as much detail, but this guy Jeremy, he just looking at me. I thought, he thinks I'm weird, Well, that's beside. Don't answer that.
Now he knows I'm weird.
So next thing I know, he's in my hip pocket. He's my best friend. And little did I know, Jeremy had a really rough upbringing with his family life, and had been to and had served our country in the war, in Desert Storm, and had seen some really bad things there. And through that, he was really struggling in his personal life and his family life. And he had come up here from Florida with the intent to kill himself on a motorcycle, to run it off the mountain roads and kill himself. And from what he claims, God using me as a piece of conduit, God's work through me, and Dennis and everybody involved just came together there at Indian Boundary Lake. And I told my testimony. He said that's when he rededicated his life to Christ. And he's become a very godly man, and he's turned his family life around since has had some issues in his marriage. And through God's love in Christ, they have worked through that, and they're better off than they ever have been.
Awesome.
So it's truly an amazing story. So that's another way God has I've seen God working in my life.
I remember you telling me about that. You know, when you come back to work after that ride.
Yeah, that was.
I feel like that was the second I've heard that one come from him.
Yeah, it's just it's a really moving story. He had a well thought out plan. And he had decided when he got back on his bike, because we were about to the bottom of the mountain, he was going to do it.
I think he'd even left a note for him.
I think so. Yeah, for his family. Yeah.
So
It's just so those are ways that God's worked in my life since. But now on to the best part. You want to talk a little, since I've talked a bunch?
we joke around that was the best $37 we both spent.
This is 37 feet to join this.
Yeah, but trying to meet someone that not in a bar setting or not.
Well, this is during time of COVID.
And
also.
COVID, was darn near impossible, and so
the churches were shut down, for so to speak. Not shut down, but we weren't attending church. Churches never shut down.
Physical.
You sure weren't going to meet them at Kroger when Instacart's delivering your groceries, on your front porch. So we met, and then it was it was probably one of the easiest. Getting to know somebody, the awkwardness wasn't there, and so we talked for 2-3 days, and he was coming up to where I live to ride his side by side with his brother, and I just kind of blurted out. I said, "Well, just come by here afterward if you want to," and didn't have any hesitation about this could be a serial killer. What have you
What's
done?
the chances of 2 serial killers meeting online?
So he pulls in, with his muddy side by side in tow, and he's got his overalls on, a Superman T-shirt, and and we sat there and talked for hours. And then I said, if you want to come back tomorrow, I'll fix this lunch. And so that just kind of, but we have since talked, of course, laughed about it, that it was one of the easiest things we've ever either one of us have ever been. You have that awkward stage when you're getting to know somebody and kind of their quirks, and do I really want to go with this person? Is this worth my time and effort? And we didn't have any of that. It's like we had known each other for years, or had grown up together, and it was just.
Well, I'll tell my age. I'm 51, and at 51, you realize after what you've been through, you kind of know what you want.
Yeah.
And you don't want to play games. I'm not going to tell your age.
Yeah. I'm 47, and had never been.
That's for you to say.
And 47, I'd never been married, don't have any children, and so to enter into what you would deem a serious relationship, at this age, you really, you go through relationships in your 20s and 30s and stuff, and you figure out what's important on that list. He checks all the boxes, and I have since told people, I said, if I had sent the Lord a list of what I wanted in a mate, that's what I got back. And I'm not sure he feels the same, but we just I have a small family, and it's just good.
It's a God thing.
Yeah.
You look at everything that everybody's got a story. I just shared my portion, and that's not me tooting my horn, but everybody goes through a lot of stuff.
Yes.
But for me to look back and think of everything that I went through, meanwhile, I forgot to say this, my brother was diagnosed with cancer during all that time too, and has since beaten it, amen. And so all those things pile up, and you think, why is God's given me such a blessing? I'm fallible. I'm why me? The wretch like me. I mean, why?
What did I do to deserve this?
Exactly.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Not, what was me, but in a good way.
I remember one of the first things she told me, I said, what do you want to do when all this COVID craziness is over? And which nowadays we don't know if it'll ever be over. But we got to get back to whatever we want to call normal nowadays. Yeah. And she said, I want to go to church with you and hold your hand.
Yeah.
And I knew from about then on that I was with the right person.
Yes.
So that was one of the first moments I knew.
Wow.
Yes, like it reminds me when he said that of when you was talking about Savannah.
Yeah.
First place she wanted to take you was church.
Yeah, that's always a good sign. Of course, at that time, that's the last place I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But that's a different story for a different day. But so I got to tell you, it's always a really good sign when we can go almost 40 minutes without us having to talk.
Oh,
And
we love it.
It is. It really is. And it's because wave after wave of just God throwing himself in that mix. And so I knew you. We've known each other for, what, a year and a half, if that?
Yeah.
Seen each other maybe 3 times. And so I went to the house in Kingston whenever you had first got that.
Right.
We were kind of talking about some things that were going
Right.
on there. And Philip had been telling me for a while you'd been on his heart. So we'd prayed for you for the church and just in our little circle and everything for the longest time. Because Philip, I guess, in his spiritual awakening in his own, he can see people from when he was this and where he is now, and he has that connection. He knows something. And I don't think, I certainly didn't know that that's where you were, but God did.
He did.
And he communicated it to Philip. So we had been praying for you that whole time. And I think part of it was like, man, we'd love to have him since he's local to come join our
Right.
assembly. But little did we know that God had something else we
Yeah.
needed to be praying for in the meantime.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging to me to know that God had his hand on you when you needed it most.
He continues
Yeah,
to
that point.
because my heart issues are not over.
Right.
I told you that in 15 my ejection fraction was 55.
Mhm.
So through my recovery, I decided I've always wanted to be an airplane pilot. I always wanted to be a private pilot and fly a plane. And I've got friends that do that. We do, Mike, and I've flown. So through a good woman, she encouraged me to go live part of my dreams, and I started down the avenue to become a pilot. And with prior heart issues, the FAA says you got to meet these certain things. So back in August of last year, I was already, I joined the fly club, started going, and my instructor said, look, you're doing great. You need to go ahead. And I was open with him, said, I've got some heart issues. And he said, that's going to be some extra hoops. Why don't you go ahead and get your medical certificate? So I start with that and get with a FAA doctor, and the doctor says, well, you need to do need to wear a Holter monitor, and we need to do a current EKG and echo. So I'm going through this process, and this is God's intervention here, divine intervention again. I go through it, turn the monitor in, and I go to Park West Hospital again. Here we are at Park West, and go for an echo. And this I walk in, and I was like, I know that guy. Well, it's her neighbor, the one that she grew up with. She known him, this guy Jacob, all of his life. And
Small world.
and the lady's assigned to me said, no, I'm doing him. So he goes in, we're talking and all this stuff, and I don't know if you know anything about me, but I like to cut up. I like to have fun. I'm gonna have fun no matter where I'm at, but I'm not gonna be there long.
Yeah.
So Jacob, he's sitting there and he says, "Are you feeling okay?" I said, "Yeah, I feel fine." "No, seriously, are you feeling okay?" I said, "Jacob, stop it." Because he likes to have fun too. I said, "Just stop. Just quit." He goes, "No, seriously." He goes, "Let's start over." And he starts erasing all these images on this echo. He says, "Lay still." And he's putting this thing on me. And this time he's really pushing. I'm like, he's really trying to. And I thought, man, he's really taking this joke, you know,
a little
pretty
too far here.
He's starting to hurt. Don't make me come up here. You ain't gonna like me. Have a moment of weakness here.
Yeah.
So he said, "You sure you're feeling okay?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, I said, "Jacob, just tell me what's going on." He said, "You have an extremely weak heart." And he said, "Lay still." So he does all this, and he turns around and calls my cardiologist. So that's from 15 to 18, 55% and 15. Well, coming to find out, my ejection fraction is down to 32. Okay. That tells you it's pretty weak, pretty serious. And so why this has dropped like this, nobody, we think we know now, because I've moved to a different doctor. And so long story short there, through those issues, I've been blessed again, because this blessing that I've been given here, her father had a heart transplant. I don't think he would care for me saying that.
Oh, no, he wouldn't care at all.
He had a heart transplant 6 years ago by this University of Kentucky group. And they know the ins and outs. They said, look, you need to go to this heart failure specialist. And I've been up there 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, and been blessed. I am in beginning stages of congestive heart failure right now. And the prognosis is basically at some point I'll have to have some advanced intervention. So we're going to figure out how to lessen the decline to get me to that. And I'm blessed with that. And to be able to sit here and spend more time here. But I say all that to say this. You've heard me say this, and when you get to this point in your life, you and I had this discussion earlier. When you can say, don't threaten me with heaven because I'll go. I saw my mother's face. I've seen the peace. I don't want to go. But we're all going to pay that price to get there. And you got to leave these old world things behind to get to it, and you got to walk that path. When you can say it is what it is, and you can truly live that way, you have really turned it over to God.
Yes.
Yep.
Because until a lot of people will say that, until you live that, you don't understand the peace that's out there for you. When you can say it is what it is, and things like that don't affect you, because my God has a plan, and He's in control, not me. Because I tried for a long time, and you can really screw things up.
Well, he wouldn't bring us this far, bring you this far, to turn us back.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything in our lives together is tab A slot B. There's been a lot of voids happen in her life recently, and I'm hoping that I can fill some of those, and it's just been great, and we are blessed here on earth, and we just want to serve. And I hope that I'm smart enough and educated enough to understand when He goes, dummy, I need you to do this.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Amen. It's awesome.
So
I can very firmly say, God uses people. And if we truly believe that He knew us before the foundation of the earth, He knew what we were going to do. He said, I'm going to take this person, I'm going to take this person, I'm going to take this person, I'm going to put you where you need to be, and it's all going to come together because we need you here for a purpose. And, with the miraculous heart attack that you had, that's what it was, miraculous heart attack, and the way you responded and everything that happened, that wasn't for nothing. There's no miracle that was ever done that was for nothing. It wasn't, your recovery wasn't even just so you could keep living. It was so that you could tell people about that. So you could tell people about what happened to you and how God saw you through that and what He's doing with you now. And that's awesome. That's a beautiful thing. That's very encouraging and exciting for me. And I did not realize just how much what Matthew 17, how that's like everything was layered in what you're talking about already today.
Well, it's a God thing. I tell you, the sermon you gave this morning just was exactly what we're talking about. And you had no clue about this. I mean, you knew me a little bit, but you didn't know.
I knew your name. I knew that you lived in Kingston. That's as far as I knew about you. That's awesome, though. I love that. That's
He works. It gives you chicken skin.
Yeah.
It's a good moment.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Joe's been on here the whole time. He said, I know it's hard to do, but we always have to keep our faith in Jesus Christ and that Jesus loves you. And that's absolutely, that's the whole point of it, is life's not going to be easy. I don't think if anybody can say that life's easy, they're lying to you.
Yeah. They're lying to themselves, too.
Yeah. But that's it. It's
And Christ never promised us it would be.
When life is difficult, how do we respond? How do we react? What do we do with it? Well, having faith and practicing faith are two different things. Practicing faith is having that mindset of, God's got this. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like, but I know He's under control. And I've just got to give that to Him. Having faith is, you can say you've got faith all day until that comes. And then what are you going to do with it?
Well, He tells us He will never leave us nor forsake us.
Right.
And I think it's up to us to be open to that, just to see that, things are bad right now, but our names are written in His hand.
That's it.
He'll never forget us.
Yep.
And until I was able to truly turn it over to Him and quit doing my work and screwing it up and put it in His hands, You know, I was always praying for the mountain to be moved. But sometimes he gives you the shovel and the strength to move the mountain.
Sure.
You got to do the work. Until I was willing to do the work, I wasn't rewarded.
Or climb it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's I hear people all the time say, "Man, I wish this would happen. I wish that would happen." Well, make it happen. Turn it over to
They
him.
think
Pray
they have
about
a divine butler.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
That is the mindset of a lot of people, and if you there's several instances, we talked about a few of them today in the Sunday school hour where
This Sunday school service and
It's-
this is all just married.
that tells you God's hand's involved
Well, think
entirely.
about it. We it wasn't planned.
No.
Wasn't our plan.
No.
Certainly not. No,
It was
it was
planned.
planned,
It was.
but we didn't have any fun with that.
Yeah.
But when Jesus turned water into wine, he told them to fill the jars with water.
Mm-hmm.
When he resurrected Lazarus, he told them to move the stone. There's some things that God says to show me you're ready for this, I need you to do this. You're doing it isn't the miracle, but that shows me you're prepared for this, that you're willing to make that sacrifice, that you're willing to go that mile. If you really want your brother, you've got to show me you're willing to open the tomb.
I agree.
And that's powerful, and that's a message in itself.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said that God spoke to them, wanted them to give someone some money, and it was quite a large amount. And when he went to give it to him, he stopped him and said, "Remember the lepers," and said one was made whole because he came back and he thanked him, and he dropped the amount of money that he was gonna get. God told him to drop it to a certain amount and then give it to them, and said, "Wait for the thank you," meaning if they thank you, make them whole, give them the rest of it. If not, because God, like you were talking about this morning, God, it rains on the just and the unjust, and God is God, and we can see in creation that He's God, but He's waiting on us to thank Him, to come to Him and realize who He is. And so He did this, and He gave them the lesser amount, and they didn't thank Him, and so He left without the extra blessing. And I thought, how many times how many times in our life have we missed out on blessings?
And it's either from, we just don't acknowledge that it's from God. If we do, we like to count it to our own accord.
Look what I did.
Look what I did. That's it.
Yeah, I deserve that.
And
Yeah.
I thought,
We're just a pawn, and I tell everybody that through my whole testimony, talking to people, everything, I was a piece of conduit.
Yeah.
Just a way for him to communicate and get the message across, and I am so blessed and so thankful that he chose me.
yeah,
I'm just glad he chose somebody.
yeah.
It don't have to be me.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we can be effective. It is by us being the conduit, like you said. It's by allowing Him to work through us, not with us, through us. And that's like casting out the demons. When the disciples couldn't do it, and they said, "Why couldn't we do it?" He said, "This requires prayer and fasting." Jesus didn't go say, "Hey, I'm going to take a week off. I'll be back. We'll pray this thing out." It was because they had forgotten who was expelling the demons from them. And so we forget who gives us the blessing. We forget who wakes us up each day. We forget all these insignificant things because they seem insignificant to us because we're so used to them.
Right.
And every day is a blessing. And, we can focus on these big things like, wow, God, thank you for this, but thank you for everything. And thank you for the stuff you've withheld from us. That's awesome. This has gone. So I didn't know what to expect from today, and so that's always the fun
I
part of
didn't
this.
either.
Yeah,
I
Yes.
came in completely
That's-
cold and just
That's
laid
the
that
goal
on my heart.
of our
That's it.
podcast.
but we always have guests, and sometimes I know the vagaries. Sometimes I've heard a little bit here and there. Sometimes we've met beforehand, and I'm always like, well, we'll get a testimony, and some testimonies have been very short. Some of them have been, like we said, 40 minutes of just here it is, and that's all awesome. But I didn't know the angle that would be taken, I guess, and that's been beautiful. I've really liked that.
That's the way he works.
And I can say with every ounce of confidence that I have that this is going to really impact multiple people
Absolutely.
that are able to hear this, because you cover so many things, from health to divorcement to our own internal demons, and every one of them you didn't say, oh, look at this huge list of things that has happened to me. It was, this happened, here's how God handled it. This happened, here's how God handled it.
Well, I wouldn't be sitting here today if he hadn't handled it.
That's it. Awesome. So what's life look like in the future? What is God pointing you towards next?
We're looking forward to we're going to sell a house here in Kingston, and we're going to build a house next to her mom and dad up there, and just settle in and see what God has in store for us next, and see how we can. She's very involved in the community, so we want to try to help and give back to the community, and just wherever the direction God takes us, I just want to try to serve.
Amen. Sounds like God's given you a time to actually rest. Yeah, I don't know if you're capable of that, but it sounds like He's finally given you some peace.
It's been great.
We're just excited to see where He wants to use us.
Yeah. I love seeing that. I love hearing that heart of the here am I, send me. Whatever the need is, let's go. And just the conversations we had before we were in here was really encouraging to me, because sometimes people are so nervous they don't want to talk. But both of you were like, here's where I'm leading on this, and here's what we're doing over here, and it's all this, and I love to see the Spirit moving and being used so freely.
Well, we didn't really talk before this. We just said we were going to go lay out whatever God moves us to do, and sorry I talked so long.
No. Please listen. That's what we desire, because they see us every week. They hear us every week. This isn't about us. This is about God working through people.
Right.
And so thank you for the opportunity to be able to get your story out there, and to tell people what God has done in you and through you.
Well, if people will allow Him to come into their heart, and they'll trust Him and turn their life over to Him, He will work through them as well, and He has a plan for you. He loves us all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And we're thankful for the platform that you all have. To be able
God's given us.
Yeah.
That's right.
That the people that you touch that you would never have been able to before.
Right.
Yeah. We are.
Yeah.
We'll tell you the numbers after, but it's at the same time humbling and terrifying, because you saw our congregation this morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's our highs. And so we don't have the capability outside of God's power to reach these people, but He has definitely blessed us with this ability. And if you guys aren't doing anything in 2 weeks from now, we'd love to have you back for the 100th episode special. Just to get to. I think it'd be really cool. Also, we didn't even think about this aspect of all these different stories, all these different people that don't know one another, to be able to come together and have that kind of.
We're gonna get 100 people in here.
Oh no, we're
we'll be over
just
there.
get on to it.
I don't know.
I told you I'm gonna have fun no matter where I'm at.
But we're definitely gonna really celebrate that, and we're just excited for it. You got anything?
No, better get back over there.
Anything on your heart or mind to leave with?
No, we just appreciate the opportunity and having us in this morning.
Yeah, God bless you. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Folks, we appreciate you joining us here today. As we said at the top of the show, we're having our 100th episode coming up, so we're going to have hopefully as many people as we can fit in the sanctuary over there, and we'll have an opportunity to be able to talk with them. We're going to have us a little celebration afterwards, just to celebrate what God has done in all of our lives and to catch up with one another. And shortly after that, we want to have a question and answer episode. So if you've got any questions that either you haven't gotten an answer you feel that God really has, or you're just too embarrassed, or maybe you're too ashamed to ask us. We're not ashamed or embarrassed. We'll tell you as best as our knowledge, and if we don't have it, we've got a panel of people we know. We can ask them, and we'll find those answers for you. You can comment on the bottom of this video and join David and Joe. You can message us directly. You can email us at blessingcursing3019. As always, the greatest thing you can do for us is pray for us and to share this. What sharing does is it allows more people to be able to hear these stories, people that are outside of our typical range, and it helps other people to be able to hear testimonies like this and just the power that God has in everyday situations, and to show people that you're not alone. One of the big themes you kept talking about was how you did not want to be alone, but how you kept finding yourself there. And a dog is great, but a dog is not a person. And so it's encouraging to know that there is, we always say there's the dawn after the storm. There's always the light at the end of the tunnel. There's always God, and He's always there to see you through those times.
Amen.
But God bless you. Thank you so much. And folks, bless you and thank you for joining us. Okay. Once he gets that second click, we are free to